Hello, this is Naughty, and I wanted to do a basic movement tutorial. I'm going to do this in one take. This is technically the second take I took, but it didn't record my microphone the first time, so let's not be too harsh. So, while the tutorial might teach you basic options like how to use your WASD keys, your sprint, your crouch, it doesn't really teach you things about prone, crawling. These are some basic things. You probably already picked up on these if you played other FPS games. But there are a lot of things you might not have picked up on. And I think movement transcends a lot of things that people talk about. You can actually learn to do a lot of things that seem impossible without, thinking about it too much. So let's get into the most basic form of movement that I think is the most important in this game, and that is peeking. Because while the peeker advantage isn't insane, it is definitely present. The most common peek is called a jump peek, and people do this a lot, and you can do them in different fashions, and this is super popular. And then there's jiggle peeking. Jiggle peeking is really only effective if you have things like double time or default walk speed. This really depends on what you're planning on using in that corner. I highly recommend double time for this, but I think the most abusable form of this is drop peeking, because it allows you to drop around a corner really quickly, and you can shoot. In addition, if you press crouch, you can cancel out of it early, so you can get some really fast peeks and snake around the corner instantly if you're not planning on shooting. Now let's talk about the next one. We have jumping. Jumping has a lot of issues, but we can talk about those. So you can't jump and shoot out of a jump and sprint like this. There's obvious reasons for this, but if you just stop holding sprint after the jump peek, you can actually do these no-scopes. So yeah, you can pretty consistently hit your shots pretty accurately, and it takes a little bit of practice, as well as you can do this. While sometimes you might not be able to shoot out of it like that, you can always do this. Where with like minimal effort and timing, you can always do this. Jump and use the scope. While you can't jump and sprint out of this, you can do the cancel with the inspect animation. Then, here is some movement. This is some basic movement. This is called sprint hopping. There's a lot of input delay, and you're not actually faster than someone who's sprinting. You are actually the same, or in the case of snipers and LMGs, the same as your rifle and SMG counterparts. That way you can keep up with them. And this is most effective for them. And this isn't b-hopping by any means, this is just the most effective way of keeping up with your teammates, if those are your options. And it's pretty common to see, and it's actually a great follow-up to a jump peek, because you can just keep moving after you take the peek. While it's not risk-free like the prone movement I showed, this is considerably better than just praying that you don't get like sniper shot right here when you peek out because they were aiming here instead of where you landed here, which is totally fine. Then we get into actual b-hopping. That sprint hopping that wasn't so useful can actually be improved quite drastically by adding a scope animation to the whole process. You can move around a lot faster this way, and is useful for all weapon classes. I think this is a great option, and while you probably can't do it as easily as jump peeking, because you are kind of obligated to keep moving in a way with this, you can do it just fine. Then there, I think, is the most powerful form of b-hopping, and this, you just tap the sprint button every time you hit the ground. And you're not committed to scoping, you're not committed to doing anything, so you can knife out of it, you can shoot out of it. And the reason you can shoot out of it is, again, that sprint timing is relatively low, but you can still get grenade freeze like that, and that's fine. There's one final form of b-hopping called crouch hopping, where you insert a crouch every time, but as you saw, I kind of slowed down there. I can't do it consistently, and it kind of sucks, and I kind of wish I could hit these consistently. The guy who showed it to me showed me some really cool tech where you can go through some of the vaultable windows, like on Titan, with the crouch hopping, but unfortunately crouch hopping is not consistent enough to the point where the person who showed me openly admitted they had to use a macro to show it off to me. I'm not sure that they use this in game, so I don't really feel like dropping names. But on another note, there's a lot of debate around b-hopping if it should be in the game, because people claim this is like kind of BO2 like. But I think that's kind of lost on me, because with the increased time to kill, outside of headshots, there's not a ton that you can do. So this is very much like kind of like Black Ops 4 in that way. So advanced movement kind of makes sense, I think, in this case, because this is actually kind of a common formula for something like arena shooters, where it's a lot slower to kill people, but with the right skill, you can always hit your shots. Whether it be something like Unreal Tournament or Quake, I get serious vibes of that, plus an arcade shooter. And I think diverse movement options are super awesome in this game. And there are some really abusable things, like this crouch peek. I barely saw that, but that's enough to get the information on your opponent. And I think this game has some awesome things. And there are some bugs that even make harder jumps easier to do, like grenade acceleration, where you jump and if you press a strafe key, you will go really fast in that direction. It's really practical for things like this drop-off if you want to land here consistently. Because normally, you would have to have good strafing, and you would have to move your camera at the same time. You still have to do that, but the strafing is a lot easier and takes a lot less skill. You can't use it to increase in elevation, so you can't consistently hit things like that, which this is totally doable. As you saw, I made it up there and then dropped down like an idiot. But I think this game's pretty cool. And the choices that the developers have made are awesome for people who want to express their skill and actually improve at the game. There is options to get better, outside of just aiming on your target and stuff like in standard COD games. And I think that's something that Counter-Strike and other shooters have had for a while. And I feel like this is one of the reasons I feel like Rainbow Six is lacking. Having a jump key, even if you can't b-hop, allows for diverse choices, especially jump hopping. But I highly support b-hopping because I think in this case it makes the game a lot better, and I'm not sure I'd keep playing it if I didn't have fun. And I think this is some of the most fun I've ever had. Until next time, stay naughty.